A huge advantage CAFS has over water is it attacks all three sides of your fire triangle. Remember, there's fuel, oxygen, and heat. Okay, the fuel, for instance, this piece of paper, which is a hydrocarbon. All our hydrocarbons, I'm a hydrocarbon. You get me hot enough, I'll burn. This whole room's nothing but a hydrocarbon in there. So I'm producing my hydrocarbon here. Okay, I've got my hydrocarbons and I've got my oxygen. All I need now is my heat. I light a match and I light this on fire. Okay, now this is starting to generate a lot of fire. You know, the fire is building in here, it's burning off my hydrocarbons. Now, if I spray water onto this, what am I doing? I'm evaporating, I'm cooling off my hydrocarbons. But if I take this towel and throw it over this hydrocarbons, we have separated the oxygen from our hydrocarbons, the fuel. But what else is going on here? This hydrocarbon or fuel is still got the heat in it. It's still got a lot of heat above combustion, but it's just missing the oxygen. So we got fuel and heat together. We've just separated the oxygen. So with this over the top of it, it's going to burn my blanket off. As soon as it burns this blanket off, it's going to get oxygen, so it's going to start burning again and start generating heat. Okay, this particular blanket is made out of cotton, so it's going to burn too. It's going to become a hydrocarbon, and it's going to help burn. But you take this, which is my CAFS, and I cover it with CAFS. Now, this here blanket now, what is this blanket made out of? It's made out of water. Okay, with the water on here and it's burning this blanket, what it's doing? It's actually cooling my hydrocarbons. So now it's attacking the heat, and it's also holding, it isn't holding the heat in there, it's evaporating, or basically it's pulling my heat away from my hydrocarbon. Now notice where my water is going. It's not running off, it's staying right there on top. I have now created a blanket. So I've attacked actually all three sides of that triangle, the fire triangle. My hydrocarbon's on fire, and I'm spraying it with water to put this out. Now, notice something's going on here. See the water running off? Where's this water going? It's going down into our streams, into our lakes, into our rivers, into our sewer systems, and it's contaminated. What's this hydrocarbon made out of? We don't know. You know, there could be chemicals. When you put heat with a number of different substances, like this plastic, this paper, this tablecloth, me, whatever, and I burn and we all burn together, what are we doing here? What hydrocarbons are we making? This water is carrying off a hydrocarbon. It could be extremely toxic. I'm seeing the time coming that we are going to be required to catch the water that we don't use to keep from contaminating our rivers. This is already starting to take effect in some places of the country or some parts of the world. So this is something you got to be concerned about. But when I apply the CAFS is not running off. It's not running down my river and my stream. It's staying right here. It's covering it up. Something else what I have accomplished by covering up my hydrocarbons, smoke. Smoke is a hydrocarbon, an unburnt hydrocarbon. What is in that smoke? We don't know. Some of it's extremely toxic. That's the reason it's so important to make sure you wear an SCBA anytime you're fighting any kind of fire. I can't tell you, taking out your lungs is 10 times as bad as getting burning yourself. You can live scarred, burnt, but if you burn your lungs, they can't repair your lungs. You only have one set of lungs. When you burn up your lungs, that's it. So make sure you're wearing your SCBAs. Now, what has also happened here? We've covered up this hydrocarbon. You notice the smoke just instantly goes away. I mean, just as soon as we apply it, watch the smoke. Notice how fast that smoke goes away. What's happening here is we threw the blanket over top of this smoke. We are now holding this hydrocarbon and we're trapping this toxic smoke. So here's another huge advantage. You'll notice when you spray CAFS into a burning building, the smoke almost instantly goes away. You got steam. Yeah, you got a lot of steam. The white smoke is steam, but it could have some hazardous chemicals in it, so don't be breathing that. Okay, another really good usage of CAFS is protecting an exposure. Okay, we've got this house here that's sitting here. This house is not on fire. But this tree or tank or whatever is on fire. Okay, if we sprayed water on this house, you know, we'll set up in here and we'll spray this house with water. We keep going back and forth spraying this house with water. Notice the water is running off and going away. It won't stay. So we have to continuously devote a line here to keep this house cool. We are using resources and manpower. Now, if we would come in here and coat this house with CAFS, okay, this CAFS will coat this house through here. This CAFS will actually soak into your material on some materials. This shingled roof, it's not going to want to soak in. But a wooden exposure, it will actually soak it and coat the wood and put a coating into the wood, basically put a moisture into the wood. So you still, the CAFS could be completely gone off of it, but it's still protected to a lot better than its dry counterpart right beside it. So CAFS is an excellent protection of an exposure, and it frees up your man and your resources. It doesn't use up your resource, which is your water. Let's talk about what actually happens when we use water to fight a fire. What are we trying to do here? What we're trying to do is remove the heat. When we spray water into a highly heated area, atmosphere, it turns into steam. And when this chemical reaction happens, it removes a tremendous amount of heat and it carries it away. The steam is carrying this heat away. Okay, on a nozzle, why do we use a straight stream? Strictly for reach, to be able to reach the fire. The issue is, when we get it into the fire or into this atmosphere, we got this straight stream. Sure, in this stream, there's some steaming going on right here. It's turning into steam. So we hit the wall and we want to bounce that water. What's it doing? It's turning into water droplets. Okay, what a water droplet does is gives us a smaller area but a lot more surface for that thing to steam off. So the smaller we can make a water droplet, the more steam we can produce. Okay, back on this bubbles. What's a bubble? It's a very, very thin layer of water. What will evaporate more rapidly? Lots of little bubbles, or this surface or droplet of water. It's coming in here. There's just a droplet of water here. You got a lot of water in here in this bubble. So what we're trying to do is give more surface area for a more rapid steaming action. Okay, we're spraying this into this room. Now watch what happens here. You put it on a wall, look what's happening. Our water is running off. Our CAFS is staying put off here. So your water is coming off, but your CAFS is staying put right at it. So being able to stick it here is a huge, it keeps it up into your room. Also, we are now covering our fuel load. Our hydrocarbons are being covered. Another big problem the fire department creates, or fighting a fire, is damage. Fire damages the structure. Another huge, I'd say 2 times, 3 times more damage is done by smoke than the fire. Depends on, if a fire totally damages it, that means it completely gutted it out. It's worthless anyhow. But say you have a small kitchen fire. You got the fire is just on the range. So actually the fire hasn't done that much damage, but the smoke that the fire has done a tremendous amount of damage. Now, we show up and we add to the damage. For instance, water damage. Okay, a good example of water damage. Now, let's not forget about water damage, what it consists of. It's not only water, it's the hydrocarbons the water is carrying. It's carrying this smoke, substance, whatever. So this water, if the water evaporates, if it's clean water, it's just, you got to get rid of the water. There's no smell in water. But if it's carrying that hydrocarbon, now you got a smoke smell. A good example of this, I had an uncle lived in an assisted living building. It was a 12-story building. They had a fire on the 9th floor. He lived on the 2nd floor. Okay, the fire started on the kitchen, and by the time the fire department arrived, the fire had spread to the entire apartment. Now, another advantage of CAFS, the fire department arrives on the scene. They have to fight this fire up here on the 10th floor. So they have a standpipe to pump this water up. Or they have to lay hoses through the walkway to get water up to this 10th floor. Remember, CAFS does not weigh near what water weighs. To give you a very good example of this, I was down in Texas and I was assisting on a fire that started in a real heavy wooded area. It was about a 5-acre fire. Anyway, to fight this fire, there's a lot of brush in there. We laid over 1,000 feet of 1.5-inch hose, not 1 inch, 1.5 inch. And there was a total of 6 of us. And we drug 1,000 feet of 1.5 inch in throughout 5 acres of this fire. Now, if you was doing this water, just be impossible. You couldn't do it. But we was able to do it with 6 men because of CAFS. CAFS does not have the friction loss that water has. Plus, water weight, lifting the weight up this 10 stories. You got to increase your pump pressure to get this up. CAFS, you do not. It just pushes up because of the weight of the water. Now, this fire, time to get there, is fully involved. Let's say it only got in that one apartment, but it could have damaged the ones next to it and stuff. What percentage of the damage was done, the total cost of damage done to this building was caused by the fire? It's got this apartment. You got to go ahead and rebuild this apartment. Smoke is going to rise, so it's going to get into these top floors up here. So you got smoke damage up here. But as a rule, smoke doesn't go down, as a rule. What happened here is the fire department put this fire out with water. What happened to the water? It went down through all these floors, every floor. My uncle's apartment was damaged by water damage. He had smoke smell in his apartment, plus it soaked everything. They had to go through this entire building, pull carpet. It was a massive cleanup. Water even came out the front door. So now let's assess what the percentage of damage was done. This floor here, let's just call each floor 10%. Okay, if we're going to do that, this floor here is 10%. Say it damaged this floor in here. The next 2 floors up above there was maybe another 20%, another 10, 20%. All the floors below here was done by the fire department, by the water. If they would have fought this fire by CAFS, we would have had no water damage below here. But they damaged this entire building going down here. Now, let's go over to a more common scenario you're going to see every day and stuff. This is unusual. This is pretty common, or structure fire. This particular structure fire was back east, and what happened is that there was a fire in the attic. It started a fire right here in the attic. By the time the fire department arrived on scene, the fire had vented through the roof. Okay, the chief happened to be across the street watching what was going on here. They deployed a CAFS line off this truck, and they did a textbook save on this house. They hit the gable vent. This house had a gable vent, and they shot the CAFS right into this gable vent. They said they sprayed the roof a little bit, but it's hard to get that water CAFS in this hole of this roof. So they shot this gable vent and hit that perfect. The chief said they opened that nozzle, and he said in less than 5 seconds after they hit this gable vent, the fire went out, and you seen the steam come out of the roof. Okay, they knocked it down, hit that for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, I don't know what time. Then they put a ladder up here, and they come up and they opened up the gable and finished putting out the fire, overhauled the fire. The fire department went up inside here. There was no fire on the second floor or the first floor. There was some smoke in this floor here, so they positively pressured the house, cleared it out, made sure the fire was all out. The family expected a total loss of this house. To their amaze and surprisement, when they came back into this house, it wasn't a total loss. They even considered spending the night in this house, and they decided not to. The insurance company comes in here to fix the house, to repair the house. And the insurance company was very amazed at this fire too. They had to take the roof plumb off the house, unsheet it, pull the insulation out of the attic, replace the trusses where it had burnt through the areas of the trusses, resheet it, re-insulate the top of the house. They didn't even re-sheetrock this house. There was no sheetrock placed into this house, redone this house. There was no water damage. The insurance company was very impressed with the deal. Now, if we'd have done this tactical with water, come in here and attack the same fire with water, what would we have done? We'd have sit there and drove that water through all the stories, both stories of this house. We would damage this house, the water damage. Plus, remember, you're carrying the hydrocarbons down too. It had gone all the way down into the basement of this thing. A fire that I was on, and it was a friend of mine's home burnt out in the country, and we fought this fire. We put it out. And it was a friend of mine's grandfather's home, and he wanted to rebuild it. So they rebuilt this home. Come in there and completely rebuilt this home. And this home did not have a basement. It was a ranch style home, but it was, had a wood floor. It had a crawl space underneath of it. They completely gutted this house out, rebuilt this house, and then this crew came in that gets smoke damage, the smell of smoke out of your house. I don't know exactly what that all entails. But they could not get the smoke smell out of this house. They continually kept coming back to get the smoke smell out of this house, but they could not get it out. And to come to find out what actually happened is the dirt under the house had gotten soaked with the water that we fought this fire, and what it had done is carried that hydrocarbon or the smoke into that soil, so it smelled like burnt, like the smoke. So what they finally ended up doing, put Visqueen down and covered that up and sealed it, and that fixed the house. So the water damage is a huge issue, towards the community, saving property and stuff like that.